At some point in life, almost everyone reaches a moment where they decide they want more. More discipline, more purpose, more growth, more from themselves. They become tired of repeating the same mistakes, tired of living beneath their potential, and tired of watching time pass without meaningful change. Self-improvement begins as a promise that life can be better than it is today. A promise that the future does not have to look like the past. A promise that with enough effort, discipline, and consistency, transformation is possible. And in the beginning, the journey feels exciting. You start reading more, learning more, thinking differently. You begin setting goals. You become aware of habits that once felt normal. You start imagining a better version of yourself, a stronger version, a wiser version, a more capable version. For a while, everything feels hopeful. What nobody tells you is that growth changes more than your habits. It changes your perspective. It changes the way you see the world. It changes the conversations you enjoy. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what excites you. It changes what matters to you. And once your perspective changes, something unexpected begins to happen. The life that once felt familiar starts to feel different. The people around you remain the same, but you begin seeing them differently. The routines that once felt comfortable begin feeling limiting. The conversations that once entertained you begin feeling empty. At first, it is confusing. You cannot explain why certain things no longer feel right. You cannot explain why your priorities are changing. You cannot explain why you feel drawn toward a different version of life. All you know is that something inside you has started moving. That is the moment the real journey begins. Because self-improvement is not simply about becoming better. It is about becoming different. And becoming different always creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. Most people focus on the rewards of growth, the confidence, the success, the discipline, the achievements. Few people talk about the cost. Few people talk about the uncomfortable moments. Few people talk about the loneliness. Because there is a side of self-improvement that rarely appears in motivational videos. A side that many people experience but struggle to explain. The truth is that growth often feels lonely long before it feels rewarding. The moment you begin changing, the world around you does not instantly change with you. Your environment remains the same. Your friends remain the same. Your routines remain the same. But you are no longer the same. And that difference creates tension. A tension that grows quietly. A tension that many people misunderstand. A tension that makes them wonder if something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. You are simply experiencing a reality that nobody talks about. The reality that growth can be lonely, not because you are broken, not because you are better than anyone else, but because every meaningful transformation requires leaving something behind. And leaving things behind is rarely easy. That is the promise nobody talks about. The promise hidden beneath every self-improvement journey. The promise that becoming more may require walking through seasons where very few people understand where you are going. And that is where our story begins. Nobody wakes up one morning and randomly decides to change their life. Change usually begins with dissatisfaction, a quiet dissatisfaction, a feeling that something is missing, a feeling that life could be more than this. For some people, that feeling arrives after failure. For others, it arrives after heartbreak. Sometimes it arrives after disappointment. Sometimes it arrives after years of repeating the same routines and realizing that nothing is changing. The circumstances may be different, but the feeling is often the same. A realization that the current version of life is no longer enough. That realization can be uncomfortable, because once you become aware of your potential, it becomes difficult to ignore it. You begin noticing the gap between who you are and who you could become. The gap between your habits and your goals. The gap between your actions and your dreams. the gap between your current reality and the future you imagine. And once you see that gap, you cannot unsee it. This is why many people begin the journey of self-improvement, not because they hate themselves, but because they know they are capable of more. They become tired of making excuses, tired of wasting time, tired of watching life happen while they remain the same. Something inside them begins demanding growth. At first, this feeling is exciting. It feels like possibility. It feels like hope. You start consuming new ideas. You start setting goals. You start paying attention to people who inspire you. You begin imagining a future that looks different from your past. For the first time in a long time, you feel motivated. You feel alive. You feel as though change is finally possible. But there is something most people fail to understand. The decision to improve yourself is also the decision to leave certain things behind. You cannot become a different person while holding on to every old habit. You cannot create a different future while repeating the same behaviors. You cannot grow without change, and change always creates friction. The moment you begin taking your growth seriously, your priorities start shifting. Things that once felt important lose their importance. Things that once entertained you no longer satisfy you. Conversations begin feeling different. Environments begin feeling different. Even the way you spend your time begins changing. At first, these changes seem small, almost invisible, but over time they become impossible to ignore, because growth changes your relationship with everything around you. The books you read influence your thinking. The thinking influences your decisions. The decisions influence your actions, and the actions slowly transform your life. This transformation does not happen overnight. It happens gradually, one choice at a time, one habit at a time, one day at a time. Yet every small change pushes you further away from the person you used to be. That sounds inspiring, but it can also feel lonely, because the people around you often remember the old version of you, the version that fit comfortably into familiar patterns, the version they understood, the version they expected. When you begin changing, those expectations start breaking, and that is where many people encounter their first real challenge. Not the challenge of discipline, not the challenge of consistency, but the challenge of becoming someone unfamiliar, even to themselves. Growth forces you into unknown territory. It asks you to let go of certainty. It asks you to embrace discomfort. It asks you to leave behind versions of yourself that once felt safe. That process is exciting, but it is also uncomfortable, because every transformation begins with uncertainty. You do not fully know who you are becoming. You only know that you can no longer remain who you were. That realization creates a strange feeling, a feeling of standing between two worlds. One foot in your old life, one foot in your future. No longer fully connected to the past, not yet fully connected to the future. Caught in the middle. And it is in that middle space where many people begin experiencing the loneliness nobody talks about. Because growth is not simply a journey towards something new. It is also a journey away from something familiar. And saying goodbye to familiarity is often much harder than people expect. At first, the changes are so small that nobody notices them. Not your friends, not your family, sometimes not even you. You simply begin making different choices. You spend a little less time wasting hours online. You become more intentional with your time. You start thinking about your future more often. You become interested in things that never mattered before. From the outside, nothing seems different. But inside, everything is slowly changing. This is how growth usually begins, quietly, without announcements, without dramatic moments, without applause. One small decision at a time. Then something strange starts happening. The things that once made you feel connected begin making you feel distant. Conversations become harder to enjoy. Not because the people are bad, not because you suddenly think you are better than them, but because your mind is moving in a different direction. You start wanting deeper conversations. You start becoming interested in bigger questions. You start thinking about purpose, discipline, growth, meaning, the future. Meanwhile, many of the people around you are still discussing the same things they discussed yesterday. The same gossip, the same complaints, the same excuses, the same problems. And for the first time, you begin feeling disconnected, not from everyone, but from the version of life you once felt comfortable living. This can be confusing, because growth does not instantly replace what you leave behind. There is a period where you no longer fit comfortably into your old world, but you have not yet found your new one. That space can feel incredibly lonely. You still recognize the people around you, but something feels different. You still attend the same places, but they no longer feel the same. You still participate in familiar routines, but they no longer satisfy you. It is like wearing clothes that once fit perfectly, but now feel too small. Nothing is technically wrong, yet something feels out of place. Many people become frightened during this stage. They assume something is wrong with them. They assume they are becoming antisocial. They assume they are losing themselves. But the truth is often the opposite. They are finding themselves, and finding yourself sometimes requires losing your attachment to things that no longer align with who you are becoming. This is the part nobody prepares you for. The distance does not always happen because people leave. Sometimes the distance happens while everyone is still there. You can sit in the same room, laugh at the same jokes, participate in the same activities, yet feel completely different inside. Not because you dislike anyone, but because your priorities have changed. And priorities shape relationships more than most people realize. The more your priorities change, the more your relationships begin changing too. Some relationships adapt. Some become stronger. Others slowly fade. Not through conflict, not through arguments, but through direction. Because people moving in different directions naturally create distance over time. That reality can be painful, especially when you genuinely care about people. Growth often forces you to accept something difficult. Not everyone who starts the journey with you will continue it with you. Some people will remain where they are. Some people will choose comfort. Some people will choose familiarity. Some people will choose certainty. And that is their choice, just as growth is yours. The mistake many people make is expecting everyone around them to understand their transformation. Most people will not because they are bad people, but because they are experiencing life from a different perspective. They cannot see what you see. They cannot feel what you feel. They cannot fully understand a journey they are not taking themselves. That realization can hurt, because deep down, everyone wants to be understood. Everyone wants support. Everyone wants the people they care about to appreciate the changes they are making. But growth rarely works that way. Sometimes the people closest to you are the last people to understand what you are becoming. And sometimes they never fully understand at all. That is when the loneliness becomes real. Not because you are physically alone, but because you feel emotionally alone. You feel like you are carrying a vision that nobody else can see, a future that nobody else understands, a dream that exists only in your mind, and yet you keep moving forward, because something inside you knows that going back is no longer an option. You have seen too much, learned too much, grown too much. The old life may still be familiar, but it no longer feels like home. And so you continue walking, even when the path becomes quiet, even when the distance grows, even when nobody seems to understand. Because deep down, you know something important. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that you are lost. It is often a sign that you are moving. One of the most painful parts of self-improvement It's realizing that not everyone will understand your growth. In the beginning, you assume they will. You assume your friends will support your goals. You assume the people closest to you will be excited about the changes you are making. You assume they will understand why you are working harder, thinking differently, and taking your future more seriously. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And that realization can be difficult, because these are often people you care about deeply. People who have known you for years. People who shared memories with you. People who laughed with you. People who stood beside you during different seasons of your life. The last thing you expect is to feel disconnected from them. Yet it happens more often than people realize. Not because your friends suddenly become bad people. Not because you suddenly become better than them. But because growth changes what you value. And when values change, relationships often change too. You begin spending your time differently. You become more protective of your energy. You become more intentional about your goals. You start saying no to things you used to say yes to. And those changes can confuse people, especially people who are used to the old version of you. The version that always showed up. The version that always agreed. The version that never challenged the status quo. The version that was comfortable staying exactly where they were. People become familiar with certain versions of us. And when those versions begin changing, it can make them uncomfortable. Not because they hate your growth, but because change disrupts expectations. Suddenly you are behaving differently, thinking differently, making different choices, and not everyone knows how to respond to that. Some people will support you. Some people will encourage you, but others may begin questioning you. They may call you different. They may say you have changed. They may act as though your desire for growth is a personal rejection of them. That can be painful, because your goal was never to leave people behind. Your goal was simply to move forward. Yet sometimes those two things happen at the same time. One of the hardest lessons in self-improvement is understanding that growth can expose differences that were always there. Differences in priorities, differences in ambition, differences in mindset, differences in direction. Those differences may have existed for years. Growth simply makes them impossible to ignore. There comes a moment when you realize that some people love who you were more than who you are becoming. Not because they are evil, not because they want to hurt you, but because the old version of you fit comfortably into their world. The new version challenges that comfort. The new version asks different questions. The new version wants different things. And not everyone is prepared for that. This realization creates a unique kind of loneliness. A loneliness that comes from feeling misunderstood. You want people to see what you see. You want them to understand why this journey matters. You want them to understand the vision in your mind. But many of them cannot, because they are not living your experience. They are not carrying your dreams. They are not hearing the same inner voice calling you toward something greater. Only you can hear that voice. And that is why growth often feels lonely. Not because nobody cares about you, but because nobody can fully experience your journey except you. Eventually you learn something important. Not everyone is supposed to understand. Not everyone is supposed to agree. Not everyone is supposed to walk beside you forever. Some people are part of a chapter, not the entire story. Some people help shape who you were, but they are not meant to shape who you become. Accepting that truth is difficult, yet it is necessary, because holding on to relationships that no longer align with your direction can keep you trapped between two lives. The life you are leaving and the life you are trying to create. Growth requires movement, and movement sometimes creates distance. That distance can hurt. It can make you question yourself. It can make you wonder if the journey is worth it. But every person who has ever transformed their life has faced moments like these. Moments where they felt misunderstood. moments where they felt alone, moments where they questioned whether anyone truly understood what they were trying to build. The difference is that they kept moving. They accepted that being understood by everyone is not the goal. Becoming who they were meant to be was the goal. And sometimes those two things cannot happen at the same time. That is the painful truth nobody talks about. The path of self-improvement does not only change your habits. Sometimes it changes your relationships too. And that change can be one of the hardest parts of the journey. When people talk about self-improvement, they usually talk about the visible rewards. They talk about confidence. They talk about discipline. They talk about success. They talk about achieving goals. What they rarely talk about is the loneliness, not the kind of loneliness that comes from having nobody around you, the kind that comes from feeling like nobody truly understands what is happening inside you. This is the loneliness nobody mentions, the loneliness of carrying a vision that only you can see, the loneliness of wanting a different life while everyone around you seems comfortable with the one they already have, the loneliness of becoming someone new while still being surrounded by reminders of who you used to be. At first, you try to explain it. You try to explain your goals. You try to explain your ambitions. You try to explain why you are changing, why you are spending more time learning, why you are taking your future seriously, why you are becoming more intentional with your life. But eventually you realize something. Some things cannot be explained. They can only be experienced. No matter how clearly you describe your vision, nobody will ever see it exactly the way you do. No matter how passionately you explain your goals, nobody will ever feel them exactly the way you do. Because the dream belongs to you. The calling belongs to you. The responsibility belongs to you. And that realization can feel heavy. There are moments on this journey where you wish someone would completely understand. Someone who sees what you see. Someone who feels what you feel. Someone who understands the strange mix of excitement and isolation that growth creates. But often that person does not appear immediately, so you keep moving, and sometimes you move alone. That is when the loneliness becomes real, not because you have nobody in your life, but because you feel like you are carrying something nobody else can carry for you. Many people quit during this stage, not because they lack ability, not because they lack discipline, but because loneliness creates doubt. When you spend enough time feeling different from the people around you, a dangerous question begins appearing in your mind. What if I am wrong? What if I am changing for nothing? What if this journey is not worth it? Those questions are normal. Almost everyone who pursues meaningful growth asks them at some point, because human beings naturally crave belonging. We want connection. We want understanding. We want to feel accepted. And when growth creates distance between us and familiar environments, that need becomes stronger. This is why many people return to old habits. Not because the habits were good, because the habits were familiar. Familiarity provides comfort, even when it prevents growth. The uncomfortable truth is that self-improvement often requires periods of temporary isolation, periods where the path feels quiet, periods where validation is scarce, periods where progress is invisible, periods where nobody is clapping for you, nobody is encouraging you, nobody is paying attention. It is just you and the decision to keep going. Those moments reveal something important. They reveal whether your growth is dependent on approval or whether it is driven by conviction. Because if you only move when people support you, your progress will always depend on others. But if you learn to move without applause, without recognition, and without constant encouragement, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You become self-directed. You become resilient. You become someone who can continue forward even when the path feels lonely. That does not mean loneliness becomes enjoyable. It simply means you stop fearing it. You stop seeing it as proof that something is wrong. Instead, you begin seeing it as evidence that transformation is taking place. The truth is that every meaningful journey contains lonely seasons. Every person who has built something remarkable has experienced moments where they felt misunderstood, moments where they questioned themselves, moments where they wondered if anyone else saw what they saw. The difference is that they did not stop. They accepted the loneliness as part of the process, not the destination. The process, because eventually something beautiful happens. The person you are becoming starts catching up with the life you are creating. Your confidence grows. Your clarity grows. Your purpose grows. And one day you realize that the loneliness you feared was never there to destroy you. It was there to develop you. It was teaching you how to stand on your own, how to trust your own vision, how to keep moving forward even when nobody else understands. And that lesson may be one of the most valuable lessons self-improvement ever gives you. Every year, millions of people make a decision. They decide to change. They decide to improve themselves. They decide to become more disciplined, more focused, and more intentional. For a brief period, they are excited. They feel motivated. They feel inspired. They feel unstoppable. Then something happens. The excitement fades. The reality of growth begins. And little by little, they start turning back. This is one of the saddest realities of self-improvement. Most people never fail because they are incapable. They fail because they underestimate the difficulty of transformation. They expect growth to feel good. They expect progress to feel exciting. They expect discipline to feel empowering every day. But growth is rarely that simple. Many days feel boring. Many days feel frustrating. Many days feel lonely. Many days feel uncertain. The movies never show those days. Motivational videos rarely talk about those days. Yet those are the days that determine everything. Because transformation is not built during moments of inspiration. It is built during moments of resistance. The moments when you do not feel like continuing. The moments when nobody is watching. The moments when progress seems invisible. The moments when giving up would be easier. This is where most people turn back. Not because the destination stopped being valuable, but because the journey became uncomfortable. They start missing the comfort of their old life. They start missing the certainty. They start missing the familiarity, even if that familiarity was keeping them stuck. This is one of the strangest things about human nature. People often prefer familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. They would rather stay in situations they dislike than enter situations they cannot predict. Because certainty feels safe. Growth rarely feels safe. Growth asks you to trust a future you cannot yet see. Growth asks you to keep moving before the results appear. Growth asks you to believe before proof arrives. And that is difficult. Very difficult. Especially when nobody around you understands what you're trying to build. That is why so many people return to old habits. Not because the habits make them happy, because the habits make them comfortable. Comfort is powerful. Comfort asks nothing from you. Comfort does not require courage. Comfort does not require sacrifice. Comfort does not require risk. Comfort simply asks you to stay where you are. And for a while that sounds appealing, until the consequences arrive. Because comfort always sends a bill. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, the bill comes in the form of regret. The regret of wasted potential. The regret of opportunities ignored. The regret of a life that could have been different. Most people do not realize this until years later. They wake up one day and discover that nothing has changed. The goals remain goals. The dreams remain dreams. The future remains distant. Not because they lacked ability, because they kept choosing comfort over growth. Again and again, year after year. There is another reason people turn back. Fear. Not fear of failure. Fear of success. fear of becoming someone different, fear of outgrowing familiar environments, fear of entering unknown territory. Many people say they want change, but deep down, they fear what change might require. Because real transformation changes everything. It changes habits. It changes priorities. It changes relationships. It changes identity. And identity is one of the hardest things to change. The old version of you always tries to survive. It whispers familiar excuses. It reminds you of familiar comforts. It encourages familiar behaviors, because the old version of you does not want to disappear. Yet growth demands exactly that. Growth demands that certain versions of yourself be left behind. And saying goodbye to old identities is never easy. This is why the path becomes empty. Not because growth is impossible, because few people are willing to continue when it becomes uncomfortable. Few people continue when motivation disappears. Few people continue when the excitement fades. Few people continue when the loneliness arrives. But the people who do continue discover something important. They discover that the rewards of growth exist on the other side of discomfort. The confidence they wanted was waiting there. The discipline they wanted was waiting there. The life they wanted was waiting there. Not at the beginning of the journey, at the end of persistence. That is why most people turn back. And that is why the few who keep moving forward eventually become extraordinary. Not because they were extraordinary when they started, because they refused to quit when the journey became difficult. And in a world where most people turn back, that decision changes everything. There comes a moment in every self-improvement journey when something begins to change. Not around you, inside you. The loneliness that once felt painful starts feeling different. The silence that once felt heavy starts feeling peaceful. The distance that once felt frightening starts feeling necessary. You begin realizing that being alone and feeling alone are not the same thing. For a long time, you believed loneliness meant something was missing. You believed it meant you needed more people around you, more attention, more validation, more understanding. But growth teaches a different lesson. Growth teaches that peace does not come from being surrounded by people. It comes from being aligned with yourself. Many people spend their lives trying to avoid loneliness. They fill every quiet moment with noise, every empty space with distraction, every uncomfortable thought with entertainment, because silence forces them to face themselves. And facing yourself can be difficult. But something remarkable happens when you stop running from silence. You begin hearing your own voice, not the voice of society, not the voice of friends, not the voice of expectations, your own voice, the voice that knows what you truly want, the voice that knows what kind of life you want to build, the voice that has been trying to guide you all along. For the first time, you stop needing constant approval. You stop needing everyone to understand. You stop needing permission to pursue your goals, because you realize something important. Not everyone is supposed to understand your journey. A seed buried in the ground looks strange to people who have never seen a tree grow. They only see the darkness. They only see the isolation. They only see what appears to be nothing. They cannot see what is happening beneath the surface. And that is often how growth works. The most important transformations happen quietly, without applause, without recognition, without attention. While everyone else is focused on visible results, you are building invisible foundations, foundations that will eventually support the life you are creating. This realization changes everything. You stop measuring your progress by how many people support you. You stop measuring your worth by how many people understand you. You stop measuring your future by other people's opinions. Instead, you focus on the work, the daily habits, the small improvements, the consistent actions, the quiet victories nobody else sees, because you finally understand that growth is not a performance. It is a process, and processes are often private. There will still be difficult days, days when the path feels empty, days when doubt returns, days when you wish the journey were easier. But those moments no longer control you, because now you know something you did not know before. Loneliness is not always a sign that you are lost. Sometimes it is a sign that you are focused. Sometimes it is a sign that you are building something meaningful. Sometimes it is a sign that you are becoming the person you were meant to be. The people who change their lives are not the people who never feel lonely. They are the people who keep moving despite it. They learn to sit with silence. They learn to trust their vision. They learn to continue even when the path becomes quiet. And eventually, something beautiful happens. You begin attracting people who think differently, people who value growth, people who understand discipline, people who respect purpose, people who recognize the journey because they are walking their own. The connections become fewer, but deeper. The conversations become rarer, but more meaningful. The relationships become smaller in number, but greater in value. And suddenly you realize that the lonely season was never permanent. It was preparation. Preparation for a stronger version of yourself. Preparation for healthier relationships. Preparation for a life built on purpose rather than approval. The path may still be quiet, but it no longer feels empty, because you have learned one of the most powerful lessons self-improvement can teach. You can walk alone without feeling alone. You can move forward without constant validation. You can continue growing even when nobody is watching. And once you learn that lesson, very little can stop you. Because the person who no longer fears loneliness becomes free to pursue greatness. Not for applause, not for recognition, but because they know who they are becoming. And that knowledge is enough to keep moving forward. Every meaningful thing in life has a price. Success has a price. Discipline has a price. Growth has a price. Freedom has a price. And becoming more than you are today has a price too. The problem is not that there is a price. The problem is that most people want the reward without paying it. They want confidence without uncertainty. They want growth without discomfort. They want transformation without sacrifice. They want a different life while refusing to become a different person. Life does not work that way. Everything valuable asks something of you, and self-improvement asks for more than most people expect. It asks for patience. It asks for discipline. It asks for consistency. It asks for courage. And sometimes it asks for loneliness. That is the part many people never see coming. Nobody warns you that growth may separate you from familiar environments. Nobody warns you that becoming more may require leaving parts of your old life behind. Nobody warns you that transformation can feel isolating before it feels rewarding. Yet that is often the reality. You begin this journey hoping to improve your life. Then one day you realize the journey is changing you. Your standards change. Your mindset changes. Your priorities change. Your habits change. And eventually your life changes too. Not because of one dramatic moment, but because of thousands of small decisions made when nobody was watching. That is how transformation happens. Quietly, gradually, one choice at a time. The truth is that every person you admire has paid its price. Every disciplined person, every successful person, every person who built something meaningful. At some point they chose growth over comfort. They chose purpose over approval. They chose the future over immediate gratification. And many of them walked through lonely seasons along the way, not because they wanted to be alone, because becoming more required it. There comes a moment where you must decide what matters more, the comfort of staying the same, or the possibility of becoming more, the approval of everyone around you, or the fulfillment of becoming who you were meant to be, the safety of familiarity, or the uncertainty of growth. That decision shapes entire lives, because every day you choose comfort, the future remains unchanged. Every day you choose growth, the future begins shifting, slowly, almost invisibly. But it shifts. And one day you wake up and realize something remarkable. You are no longer the person who started the journey. The fears that once controlled you have weakened. The habits that once trapped you have lost their power. The version of yourself that once felt impossible has become reality. Not because the journey was easy, because you kept moving. Even when it was lonely. Even when it was uncomfortable. Even when nobody understood. You kept moving. And that is what separates transformation from intention. Action. Consistent action. The kind of action that continues long after motivation disappears. As this journey comes to an end, there is one truth worth remembering. The loneliness of self-improvement is not a punishment. It is often a passage, a temporary season between who you were and who you are becoming. A bridge between an old identity and a new one. A test that reveals whether you truly want the future you claim to desire. Because growth will ask for something. It always does. The question is whether you are willing to pay the price. Not the price of money, the price of discipline, the price of patience, the price of courage, the price of continuing when the path becomes quiet. And if you are willing to pay that price, something extraordinary happens. The life you once imagined slowly becomes the life you live. The person you once hoped to become slowly becomes the person you are. And the loneliness that once felt like a burden becomes a reminder of how far you have come. Because in the end, self-improvement is not about becoming better than other people. It is about becoming better than the person you used to be. And for those willing to keep moving forward, despite the silence, despite the doubt, and despite the loneliness, the reward is worth every step. Not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will walk beside you. Not everyone will see what you see. But that is okay, because this was never their journey. It was yours. And the person waiting for you at the end of it is worth becoming.